Something felt different the moment that Senate hearing began, like the air in the room shifted, like everyone watching knew they were about to hear something they weren't supposed to. It wasn't the usual political theater. It wasn't the routine back and forth most people tune out. It was something deeper, heavier, a warning disguised as a question. Because when a senator started pressing a former attorney general about the one thing most Americans never think about, the legitimacy of the justice system itself, the message behind his words hit harder than anything said in Washington in years.
Senator Cruz would be next, but he's not here, so I call on Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, welcome. Congratulations. Can we agree that legitimacy is important to America's criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that legitimacy is important to the Department of Justice, which in part administers our criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
And if Americans come to believe that our criminal justice system or our Department of Justice is acting illegitimately, that makes Americans less likely to accept the results of that system, does it not?
Yes, Senator.
And that makes Americans less likely to follow the substantive laws that we pass that are administered by the Department of Justice. Isn't that true?
Yes, Senator.
And if that happens, we have chaos, don't we?
Chaos.
And the social contract is breached, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember a person by the name of Michael Avenatti?
Yes.
Several years ago, he was a media star here in Washington.
An attorney, correct?
Yes. He was a media star. And many members of our media loved him because he persistently bashed Donald Trump. And he was on TV every day. He was on CNN more than Wolf Blitzer. Do you know where Mr. Avenatti is today?
I believe he's sitting in prison, Senator.
He's in jail because he was a crook. And the Department of Justice helped put him there, didn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes, Senator.
Boy genius. So smart and so powerful that he thought he could command the tides. So smart and so powerful and so rich that he would go to meetings with serious people like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair, looking like a slob, looking like a fourth runner-up to a John Belushi lookalike contest. And he thought it was cute. Where's Mr. Bankman-Fried today?
I believe he is in prison, and I believe that's from the Netflix series I saw as well.
Mm-hmm. Because he's a crook. And who helped put him there?
The Department of Justice, Senator.
Can we agree that there's some really, really good men and women at the Department of Justice?
Many, many great men and women in the Justice Department, as well, Senator, as all the law enforcement agencies that fall within the Department of Justice. They're out there risking their lives, especially the law enforcement officers, every single day.
Can we agree, though, that there have been and may be today some bad people at the Department of Justice?
Yes, Senator.
We don't know for sure because for the last 4 years, the curtains there have been tightly drawn. But I think a minority of people there, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now, this is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal. It normalized it. There are a lot of ambitious prosecutors in America, Democrat and Republican. And I'll bet you right now there's some prosecutor in a particular state thinking about, well, maybe I ought to file criminal charges against President Biden's inner circle for conspiring to conceal his mental decline. And that's the road we're headed down. And you've got to fix it, Counselor. You've got to fix it. And here's, in my judgment, what I would ask you to do. Find out who the bad guys are and the bad women and get rid of them. Find out who the good people are and lift them up. But do it on the basis of facts and evidence and fairness. Because the temptation of some people is going to be, they're going to tell you, look, two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. Don't resist that temptation. Help us restore legitimacy to the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Senator.
And if you caught even a second of it, you could feel the tension. The kind where suddenly everyone wonders the same thing. What happens to a country when people stop believing justice is real? Most political fights come and go. Today's outrage dies by tomorrow morning. But this wasn't one of those moments. This was the kind of slow burn alarm that doesn't fade, the kind that makes ordinary people sit up because they can feel the ground shifting under their feet. And the senator didn't ease into it. He went straight for the jugular. He didn't ask about policy or budgets or some committee recommendation nobody cares about. He asked about the very foundation that holds the country together. Not the economy, not foreign policy. Trust. The trust that the system will treat everyone fairly. The trust that the law isn't a tool for people in power to punish whoever they dislike. The trust that justice, real justice, isn't something that can be bent, bought, or manipulated. That question alone was enough to freeze the room. And before anyone could breathe, he followed it with the kind of example that cuts straight through political noise. What happens when the system punishes people the public dislikes, but avoids confronting people connected to power? Because that, he argued, is exactly how legitimacy dies. Not in a dramatic collapse, not in a lightning strike, but quietly, slowly, one suspicious decision at a time, until people wake up and realize the system they trusted no longer deserves that trust. And at that point, society doesn't correct itself. It breaks. The more he talked, the clearer his message became. Once the public senses even a hint of political manipulation inside the justice system, everything else unravels. Laws lose their meaning. Court decisions begin to look like political strategies. And regular citizens, people who never cared about hearings, headlines, or scandals, start to doubt whether the rules apply to everyone equally. That is the exact moment when a country crosses a line it can't simply walk back from. Because legitimacy isn't a policy, it's a belief. And once a belief breaks, it doesn't fix easily. The senator then brought up a name almost everyone once recognized. A media darling who seemed untouchable. This guy used to be everywhere. Interviews, headlines, constant praise. He was the favorite of news networks, the golden boy of commentary shows. But behind the scenes, he was doing things very different from the image he projected. And when the truth finally came out, the justice system actually stepped in. He was convicted, and as of today, he's sitting exactly where someone who broke the law belongs. That fall from grace wasn't just a story. It was proof that when the system works, it works. When it's fair, when it's unbiased, when it's not following politics but following facts, it can take down anyone who violates the law. Then came another example. A young tech mogul once hailed as a genius, showered with praise from the political elite, treated like royalty by media, celebrities, and former world leaders. People saw him as the future. He walked into rooms with presidents and former prime ministers looking like he'd just rolled out of bed, and everyone acted like it was charming. But behind that quirky image was a mountain of questionable decisions, shady dealings, and the collapse of an empire that cost ordinary people their savings. And when all of that came crashing down, the justice system, again, stepped in. And today, this so-called genius is locked up, too. These stories should have reassured everyone that justice still means something, that the system is capable of holding powerful people accountable, that no amount of media praise or political access can shield someone from consequences forever. But then the senator asked the question that changed the tone entirely. If the system can bring down high-profile figures with no hesitation, why does it lose its fire the moment politics enter the room? And that's where the real tension began. Because the truth is, people don't lose trust in the justice system because criminals go to jail. They lose trust when it feels like some criminals are protected while others are targeted depending on political alignment. And that accusation, whether you agree with it or not, is exactly what millions of Americans are whispering quietly at home. The senator said what many people are too afraid to voice. The moment the justice system looks like it's being used to punish political rivals, everything changes. Suddenly, every future case looks suspicious. Every prosecution looks strategic. Every investigation looks choreographed. And even when the system might genuinely be doing the right thing, people can't tell the difference anymore. That confusion alone is dangerous. But suspicion without clarity? That's explosive. He described it as breaking the seal, and the phrase stuck for a reason. Because once one side uses the justice system against an opponent, even if they believe they're justified, they open a door future prosecutors, on either side, will be tempted to walk through. And when that happens, politics won't just be fought in elections. They'll be fought in courtrooms, investigations, indictments, and the justice system will turn into a battleground instead of a safeguard. What happens when a nation begins that cycle? The answer isn't theoretical. Countries around the world have gone down that path. It doesn't end with fairness. It doesn't end with stability. It ends with every new administration trying to undo, punish, or retaliate against the last one. It ends with constant revenge prosecutions. It ends with a justice system everyone fears but no one respects. And once that begins, every issue, big or small, becomes a political weapon. The senator didn't stop there. He hinted at another concern floating around the public conversation: the increasing number of decisions made behind closed doors. The lack of transparency. The sense that internal disagreements within the justice system are being hidden from the public. Commentators online claim that some officials inside may not even agree with the decisions handed down by leaders, but feel powerless to speak out. These are rumors, not confirmed facts, but the fact they exist at all shows how fragile public trust has become. People don't invent these rumors unless something feels off. And then came one of the most uncomfortable parts of the exchange, when the senator referenced growing concerns about decision-making at the highest levels of government. He didn't accuse anyone directly. He didn't make a medical statement. He simply pointed out something millions of Americans talk about privately: the visible signs of aging, confusion, or inconsistency shown by the country's highest office holder. Online debates are full of speculation, some fair, some exaggerated, about whether this has affected the decisions made over the past few years. The senator used that to illustrate a point. If leadership loses clarity and political motivations start influencing legal decisions, the justice system becomes vulnerable. Very vulnerable. He wasn't saying every bad decision was intentional. He wasn't claiming every questionable move was corruption. What he argued instead was more subtle and more dangerous. When leadership is weak, ambitious actors within the system gain power. People who shouldn't be making decisions suddenly get access. People with agendas find openings. And the public begins to wonder whether the system is even being guided by steady hands anymore. But his final message is what shook the room the most. He said the justice system has heroes, men and women who risk their lives every day, officers and agents who protect communities, investigators who spend years tracking down criminals, prosecutors who work long hours to uphold the law. But alongside them, he warned, there are also people, however few, who abuse their authority. People who use power to settle scores. People who twist justice to fit an agenda. And he didn't mince words. If those people aren't identified and removed, the damage to the system will be permanent. He told the witness sitting before him that her job, and the job of anyone stepping into leadership, was to separate the good from the bad, to clean out the agendas, to purge the system of those who wield justice as a political weapon, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but to stop the country from sliding into a future where justice is no longer trusted at all. Because once trust disappears, the law becomes meaningless. Policies become irrelevant. Court decisions become jokes. And people stop following rules they think are rigged against them. That's when society breaks down. That's when order collapses. That's when chaos becomes normal. His final words weren't shouted. They were almost quiet. A warning. A plea. A reminder that if legitimacy dies, it won't just affect the powerful. It will affect everyone. The streets. The courts. The neighborhoods. The everyday laws that keep the country from falling apart. Because legitimacy isn't just a legal concept. It's the invisible thread holding the entire nation together. And that's why this hearing matters more than any headline. This isn't a story about politicians. It's about the future of justice in America. A future that depends entirely on whether the system stays fair or becomes a battlefield. If you found this breakdown eye-opening and want deeper dives into the stories shaping the country right now, make sure you hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, what's coming next is even more explosive.